I sort of fell in love with the Italian language and with Italian Andrea Bocelli.
Ah, okay.
I often say he's the only man I've ever fallen in love with.
You may not be alone there. I think, yeah.
And something about his diction.
Ciao, y'all. I'm Jessica Dupuy, guest host for a special TexSom series covering the 2024 TexSom Wine Conference from Dallas, Texas. Join me in the heart of the Lone Star State as we delve into the experiences and insights of key speakers and attendees, exploring career paths, challenges, and the latest trends in the wine industry. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe and rate our show wherever you get your podcasts.
Well, David Way, thank you so much for joining us on the Italian Wine Podcast. I'm particularly excited to have you here because this is your first time ever to Texas, right?
It's my first time in the US.
No way.
Yes.
Really?
I went to New York en route to Texas, but that was literally my first time ever in the US.
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. Well, the hospitality in me wants to say welcome. I wish we could have given you a better red carpet rollout, but I hope it was good.
It was absolutely fantastic. I've had, a most amazing week, I have to say. Absolutely loved being in New York. Visited 4 vineyards on Long Island.
Okay.
Which was amazing. Then flown down here and overwhelmed by the warmth of Tuscan hospitality and the literal warmth.
I was going to say, we are warm people, but also it's a very warm place, particularly in August. So thank you for bearing with us. Let's start by just kind of setting the scene. Let's tell the audience about who you are and kind of your journey into the wine world.
Sure. So I started off as a wine blogger. Winefriend.org is my website, and it's principally about Italy. It does have some French pages. And basically, the fundamental point about the website is that I really only write articles about places I've actually been to.
Yeah.
So there are a few other countries, but basically it's about Italy. I got into it because of, it's a very strange story. I sort of fell in love with the Italian language and with Italian Andrea Bocelli.
Ah, okay.
I often say he's the only man I've ever fallen in love with.
You may not be alone there. I think, yeah.
And something about his diction and the clarity of his voice made me fall in love with Italian. So I started going on holiday to Italy, and then quickly got very frustrated with not being able to speak the language. Went to learn the language, and in the course of that, offered to teach some entry-level classes to people who were learning Italian but didn't understand the wines that they could drink in the evening.
Yeah.
So I ran these little courses for the language school. And then after that, I thought, well, if I'm going to do this, I come from an academic background. If I'm going to do this regularly, I really ought to have some qualifications.
Yeah.
So I started on WSET.
Okay.
And my wife and I did level 2 together. Then I didn't have a local provider, so there was a bit of a gap. But then I did level 3, level 4, did further wine study. One of those wonderful things in life that if you prepare yourself a lot, sometimes amazing opportunities will arise. So it was just at the moment when they were making redundancies in the company that I was working for, a job came up at the WSET to help to write the new Diploma textbooks.
Oh my goodness, yes.
So I just could not believe my luck in terms of timing.
Yeah.
It was just perfect. So I arrived at the WSET in 2015. Victoria Burt, Master of Wine, now Victoria Mackenzie, and I were the 2 principal writers for the books which were published in 2019. So digital books only for our students, 400,000 words.
Wow, that's crazy.
It is actually astonishing.
Yeah.
And so it was absolutely amazing project.
Yeah.
To be involved.
And you're still involved in it because there's constant updates. You and I've talked about this before. So I finished Diploma a couple of years ago now, and it was definitely your words I was probably reading at the time.
Some of them were my fault.
Yeah, I think I did okay. Thanks. But it's funny, my shock at the number of words, because it is broken up into sections. So I would just pull out what I needed at a time, but I don't actually have it printed out all together. And so I just didn't even think about the enormity of that. That obviously gives you context for the entire world of wine, so to speak. But you're at TexSom because you were speaking about a book that you've written for the Classic Wine Library, which is under the Académie du Vin. So maybe tell us about The Wines of Piemonte. This is a book you recently came out with.
Thank you. Yes. So the only drawback of working for the WSET is that, as you've just said, we have to cover the whole world.
Yeah.
So I have like 10 pages to write about Piemonte or about Tuscany or whatever, roughly speaking. So you can't go into serious depth in that. It is about breadth. My heart has always been in Italy in terms of wine. So I decided, after I finished studying, that I would really like to write a book about one region in particular. And eventually I decided on Piemonte. Turned out to be the most amazing choice because it had just so much more diversity than I knew about before I started.
Yeah.
I considered Tuscany, which I'm sure would have also been fantastic, no doubt. But it doesn't have the range of wines that Piemonte has.
Yeah.
So the book, having had 10 pages on Piemonte in the diploma, the book is nearly 400 pages long.
So you got to spend a little more time expanding that.
I did.
Yeah.
And it's really the unique thing about it, and I think it genuinely is unique, is that I treat every denomination in Piemonte, and there are 60 of them, with the same seriousness that we usually give only to Barolo and Barbaresco.
Yeah.
I cover all the important regions. And, I can write as much as I want really about Gavi or Colli Tortonesi or Alto Piemonte or Caluso as I do about Barolo and Barbaresco. So that was fantastic. And I say that's really the unique thing about the book.
Yeah. I actually agree with that. We're going to talk about your presentation that you gave in a second, but I love one of the opening things you said, which was Piemonte is not just the Langhe. And it is so true that when you say, "Oh, I'm going to go to Piedmont," I'm going to Piemonte, people immediately assume, "Great. Oh, so where in Barolo are you going to go? Who are you going to visit? And what Barbaresco producers are you going to see? Ultimately." But I had a chance to spend some time driving through a lot of the region this past year as well, and I was blown away by how much bigger it is than we unfortunately tend to wrap it up, right? Like we put it into such a small box. And so I love that you were able to kind of give equal footing. This is so like fangirl, but I had your book with me while I was going through. And it was great because, I actually spent 2 days in Tortonese, in Tortona. We did a big tasting of all the Timorasso producers, and I feel like I had something more to chew on than what's really out there in terms of information, understanding the history, the geography, exactly what I was looking at. So it was selfishly, it was a huge help for me.
Good.
But that's what makes a book like this so helpful is, it may not be some like big page turner in terms of like your beach reading for fiction in the summertime. But it is super helpful for if you really want to understand what's going on there.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
You are the ideal reader. You are the person I'm looking for.
Oh, good. There's plenty more of us out there, I promise you, especially at TexSom. So in writing this, and this will kind of help transition into the seminar that you gave. What were some of the surprises? I feel like you and I've talked about this before, where it was like, I didn't realize that this is something important to be sharing with the world. And perhaps that can be kind of how you framed this seminar, know?
So the biggest surprise undoubtedly was the number of really interesting local grape varieties.
Just
so many in Piemonte. So there are 80 registered grape varieties, of which about 55, 60 are local or indigenous.
Okay.
And just because there is a grape variety does not make it an interesting grape variety.
Yeah.
But there are so many interesting ones. And that's really what my seminar was about. Perhaps we'll come back to that.
Yeah.
The other thing I really discovered, which I had no idea about at all, was that Piemonte is actually the birthplace of traditional method sparkling wine in Italy.
With Altalanga, right?
Yeah. What became
Altalanga. Sorry, yes. Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Carlo Gancia went off as an 18-year-old, went off to Champagne because presumably he'd drunk champagne and he liked it. And spent a couple of years there.
Yeah.
Came back, founded the famous Gancia company, and started to make traditional method. Long before Franciacorta, Trento Doc, Oltrepò Pavese, all the other places which have since become the leading places in Italy for traditional method. And then there's the whole tank method scene, which is way more interesting than just saying Asti or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
and Piemontes love bubbles. And so there are so many interesting red sparkling wines as well, both aromatic and sweet and dry, aromatic, non-aromatic. So those are two things that were just huge surprises and far more depth than I had previously expected.
So for the seminar that you were invited to give at TexSom, it was about basically everything beyond Barbaresco and Barolo.
I did sneak some in at the end.
I know. And rightfully so. We are talking about Piemonte, so it was the right thing to do.
But you're right.
But share with me kind of how you approached this. What did you want to share with everyone? And what were some of the, I can tell you the highlights after we talk about it in terms of what I was impressed with, but maybe share with me kind of how you attacked what you wanted to present.
Yeah. So first of all, I wanted to make this point, which you've already made, and that is that Piemonte is not the Langer. Well, sorry, it's not just the Langer. Of course, it is the Langer.
Yes.
But not just the Langer. So, for example, one of my first slides was a map of the entire region with the 6 principal areas where grapes are grown, one of which hardly anybody will have ever heard of, literally. Even if you've been in Piemonte 10 times, you won't have been to Val Susa, for example. No.
Fair.
So that was one thing, just to broaden the perspective. And then after that, it was basically a run through some of these amazing local grape varieties, which some of which are known a bit, but many of which could be known much more and are just remarkably high quality. So I sort of had a pair of, no, I didn't. I had three of each, 3 white, 3 red. So we started off with Abaluce, which comes from northern Piemonte, classically associated with the town of Caluso. And this is one that is really ought to be better known. It's a fantastically high quality grape variety, very high acid, moderately aromatic, makes terrific still wine and sparkling wine and sweet pasito wines.
Yes, you mentioned this. Okay.
So you have the whole range of possibilities there. So that's the least known, I think, of the whites. The two other whites were Nascetta and Timorasso, both of which are moderately well known. Timorasso is the real, new star, new kid on the block, through the pioneering work of Valtamassa and a few other producers.
Of course.
But now up to 380 hectares of planting.
It's amazing.
Including quite a number of famous Barolo Barbaresco names who have bought vineyards in Colli Tortonesi, which is an hour and a half away.
Yeah.
In order to have this wine on their list.
Yeah. It's in the U.S. we're starting to see people request it, to be able to include that, especially for Italian-driven restaurant concepts.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So those were the whites, and then a similar sort of thing, basically with reds. So we started with Grignolino, which is one of my absolute favorite grape varieties.
So great. This was great.
Pale red. Is it a dark rosé? Is it a pale red? Discuss. Somewhere between those two. Beautiful aromatics, very red cherry, very spicy, moderately tannic. You have to like Italian wine in order to love Grignolino, but then people on this podcast all love Italian wine, so that's fine.
It's a good company.
It is. And you can chill it in summer. I think it's a lovely grape variety to have wines for chilling. And then 2 much bigger grapes. So first of all, Freisa. And this was interesting in terms of the history, because this was Vieti's last ever bottling of the Vivace, so the semi-sparkling Freisa.
Yes.
Which is part of Piemonte's history and tradition.
Right.
But it's really difficult to sell.
Yeah.
It's red, it's deep red, it's sparkling.
It was
it's
a surprise. Dry. Yes.
It's such a tiny market. So we got to taste that. So that was great. I have tasted the next edition, as it were, which is again a great wine. Freisa is probably the most difficult grape variety to make good wine from, because it is so tannic. It's so big. Acidic.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, unless you get it perfectly right, it can be quite unpleasant, to be honest.
Yeah.
When I started doing the research for the book, I realized I really knew nothing about Freisa, and therefore I just ordered a mixed case of 12 different bottles from Italy.
Yeah.
And I tasted them, and they were just all over the place. Let's be straightforward about this.
Okay.
Some were terrible.
Yeah.
Some were really good. Styles were all over the place. So I regard it as a grape which really requires a champion.
Yeah.
It needs somebody to say, I'm going to do something great with this, whether it's rosé, whether it's sparkling, whether it's, red and dry, and I'm going to put it on the map, like other people have done, like Walter Massa did with Timorasso. It really needs that.
Yeah.
And then finally, we did Ruquet, which was really beautiful, from Bava in this case. So those were the three reds that we did before we.
Yeah, I have to say the Bava Ruquet was my favorite out of it. They handled it really beautifully, and I had a chance to go to Bava actually in Monferrato earlier this year, and I didn't taste that while I was there, so I was really glad to kind of experience it. But I was also impressed with the Granulito too, and I think like you said, what you smell in the glass and what you see in the glass is not what you're going to get on the palate, so to speak, in terms of there was just this extra punch, or this that the hook that they talk about that kind of just runs around the back of your palate. It was great. I really enjoyed it, especially chilled.
You're talking about the Granulino.
The Granulino.
Yes.
The Granulino.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a very fun way. Tell me about the Barbaresco and Barolo that you did include, and kind of what made you. I mean, there's a vast array that you could have selected from.
Indeed. So fundamentally, I didn't really choose the wines as for those particular wines. Fundamentally, what I said to the organizers was, if we're going to have a Barolo or a Barbaresco, it has to be an MGA wine.
So that's right. We did talk about,
Menzione Geografica Aggiuntiva. So in other words, a sub-zone wine within Barolo or Barbaresco. And really the point of that session was to spend 10 minutes trying to explain the system and all your different labeling options within Barolo, which has become really complicated.
Yes.
Because you can have these official sub-zone wines. You can have what the Piemontese call Barolo Classica, which is not a sub-zone, but simply a wine made from a number of different areas within Barolo or within Barbaresco. Or if you're Gaia or anybody else, you can trademark a historical name or even a made-up name, let's be honest.
Such as Spears.
Such as Barolo Spears, which does come from a single sub-zone in Barolo. And they could have made that one famous, but they chose to do their own thing.
Yeah.
And that's their choice.
Yeah, exactly.
So I spent, as you know, about 10 minutes explaining all that and also trying to give a bit of evaluation because you can make there are all sorts of proper criticisms. Some of the MGAs are way too big. Some of the MGAs are big and extinguished famous names because the subzones within the subzones, as it were, were actually more famous than the wider subzone.
Yeah.
So those got lost unless you happen to be the sole owner, in case you can use that name and put Vigna in front of it.
Exactly.
So you can make lots of criticisms, and we all enjoy doing that. But actually, I do think fundamentally it was a great move because it does mean that, particularly actually when you're starting on a Barolo journey, and if you hadn't, you really should. Within Barolo, you have communal MGAs. So you can have Barolo del Comune di La Mora.
Correct.
Di Castiglione Falletto.
Yeah.
And that means you can taste side by side something from La Mora and something from Serra Lunga d'Alba, and you will instantly understand why terroir in Barolo makes a difference. Because they will be startlingly different in expression, despite being made in and the best thing to do is to choose samples from the same winery, which are made in the same way.
Yes. Where
because
they're
then
using,
you eliminate the winemaker difference.
Right.
So, a company like Sordo, Ordero, and many others will have multiple MGA wines.
Yeah.
And you can genuinely taste the difference between them. It's really a great way of learning about Barolo.
Exactly. And I meant to ask you actually during the seminar, but is that you made a chart that's in the book, right?
The chart of the labeling. It's not in the book.
You need to reprint the book.
I've only invented the chart for the presentations.
Make it as an insert.
I can do that.
Yeah, because the only reason I would say is like this was the audience that needed to hear that. Because the question, when any region, and it's happening all over Italy, decides to make these assertions and new delineations, so to speak, obviously the question is, will it ultimately translate to the person drinking the wine? And the communicators of that are the sommeliers and the retailers and everybody else. And so if they understand it, hopefully it trickles down. But I feel like it was a really good way to break it down. And maybe when you update the book, you'll include it.
Actually, there's some very exciting news because Piemonte Land of Wine, which is the promotional body for Piemonte as a whole,
right,
have decided to commission an Italian translation
Fantastico.
Of my book.
Yes.
So I have to say that is the ultimate honor.
It is. Yeah.
As a foreigner.
Yeah. Well, it's a complete guide, you know, and so I think we've got plenty of books on Barolo, right? And well done books, you know, and there's plenty of room for more. But this is pretty detailed and lacking that particular chart, but it'll get there. I'm sorry, I didn't know. I just assumed. I'm like, I need to go back to that.
No, it's funny because as most of my time I spend teaching, but researching and writing. I was a university lecturer before that. And of course, it is that moment when you suddenly say, well, I've got an hour. I've got to explain this complicated thing to people. Right. Yeah. I'll create a diagram. It didn't occur to me to do it in the book.
It's okay. What they say, hindsight's 20/20. Yeah. So there you go. Yeah. Well, my last question to you is just, what have your impressions been? This is your first US trip, first visit to Texas, but more importantly, what did you think about your first TexSom?
It is one of the best organized conferences I have ever been to. I think I've seen a bit, because I got here early, I've seen a bit of the behind the scenes organization. And I have to say, the way that the volunteers who run it are briefed is just awesome.
Yeah.
The level of enthusiasm, politeness, organization, all those things are exceptional. The people who you can go and hear speak are amazing. So I heard Lisa Granick on the wines of Georgia. The world expert on the wines of Georgia. Yeah. I've just been to hear Sarah Jane Evans on the wines of southern Spain, which is going to be her next book. The walk around tastings have been fantastic, and I'm really looking forward to the grand tasting
tonight. I know. Yeah, it's going to be great. It's some great producers come into that, and I'm glad to hear you. I mean, they're almost in their 25th year, TexSom, and so they've definitely had time to kind of hone in on the right way, but it is impressive to see how much they're able to bring to the center of the country, right? We're not in New York. We're not on the West Coast. We are in Texas, and it's been a big door opener for a lot of markets within the center of the country. So it's been really cool. Well, I'm so glad you got to join us for this podcast. I'm more glad that you got to come to Texas because I'm definitely a proud Texan for better or worse. And I'm glad you got to enjoy TexSom.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I have to say, the air conditioning is incredible.
We definitely miss it when we travel outside of Texas. I'll tell you that. Hint, hint, Italy. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Ciao, y'all.
Listen to the Italian Wine Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We're on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Himalaya FM, and more. Don't forget to subscribe and rate the show. If you enjoy listening, please consider donating through ItalianWinePodcast.com. Any amount helps cover equipment, production, and publication costs. Until next time, cin cin.